Now, the Facebook whistleblower, Sophie Zhang, who has testified before the British Parliament, joins us live. She was earlier working as a data scientist with Facebook. Sophie, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Republic. To begin with, Sophie, you have accused Facebook of allowing its self-interest and desire to make profits to interfere with its responsibility to protect democracy. Now, in the Indian context, what did that entail? Did Facebook act selectively in particular cases?
Yes, that is correct. In India, when I worked in India, I found five networks of IT cells that were fake accounts that were being used to manipulate politics in India. Two of them were supporting the BJP, two of them were supporting the INC, one of them was supporting the app. And Facebook took down four out of five of them. The last one, Facebook intended to take down, but they suddenly changed their mind and turned silent after we discovered that the fifth one was being run out of the account of a member of the Sabha. Facebook still has not given a clear story regarding this matter. They have in fact changed their story on several occasions.
Right now, in your testimony, you have also said that at Facebook, the people charged with making important decisions about what the rules are in fact same as those charged with keeping good relationships with local politicians and governmental members. Now, could you elaborate on that, and how did that affect Facebook's decision making?
Absolutely. So this isn't a secret at all. I mean, others have criticized this. For instance, Sumit Chakrabarti, who was formerly Facebook's head of civic integrity, has criticized it as well. Because at Facebook, the people who were in charge of making decisions on how rules are enforced were also charged with keeping good relationships. And so that created a natural conflict of interest. It would be very unusual for instance, Times of India to kill an article because it made a politician look bad. But at Facebook, that was business as usual. And I don't think it was good for Indian democracy and Facebook's role in it.
Right, you say they did not think about what's good for Indian democracy and, what would be good for us as well as other democracies in the world. You've said that despite repeated reminders, Facebook even refused to acknowledge the problem. Can you elaborate?
Absolutely. So it was a very unusual situation in that people were happy to talk to me up until we realized that the network of fake accounts was tied to a member of the Lok Sabha. As soon as that happened, I could not get a single straight answer from anyone. And so if you send someone an email, you would send someone a message and they don't respond, perhaps they didn't hear it, perhaps they didn't see it. But when you're in a conversation with someone discussing other matters, for instance, I was discussing with others a pro-app network in the lead up to the Delhi elections. And when I was discussing that, I told them, if we want to act against this pro-app IT cell, we should not ignore this pro-BJP IT cell. It would be used to say that Facebook is being selective, that we are biased. And so every time there was not really an acknowledgement. And I can't read minds. It's possible, for instance, that everyone had a very selective case of deafness. For instance, perhaps everyone simply was incompetent. But to me, the most likely answer seems that people did not want to say no because it would have looked absolutely awful for them, and they could not say yes. And so they gave the only answer they could, which was silence.
Right now, you've also gone on to say that Facebook's resources for tackling misinformation are considerably different for different countries. Now, what does that mean in the Indian context? Did Facebook spend enough money and did they deploy enough resources to tackle misinformation?
So to be clear, I did not personally work on misinformation. I worked on fake accounts and IT cells, which sounds similar to misinformation but are not related. One is about who the person is. The second is about what the person is saying. And so it's no secret that Facebook allocates different resources based on different countries, and it's better at some languages than others. I understand that it has been criticized for the lack of resources in many languages. For instance, its resources in Burmese were very lacking despite the ongoing genocide in that country. And so the resources in India have been criticized as well. This is not the area that I worked on.
Right. You've also gone on to say in your testimony before the British Parliament that the impact of Facebook's inaction is particularly significant in countries where there are authoritarian leaders, where they want to work on their own citizenry. What were you thinking when you said that, and did you have evidence to back it up?
Absolutely. In that case, I was referring specifically to the governments of Honduras and Azerbaijan, both of which are officially democracies, but Azerbaijan is in practice so democratic that in 2013 they released election results a day before the actual election. And so in both of those cases, I caught the governments of those countries red-handed. They were essentially running IT cells on massive scales to mislead and harass their own citizenry. In Azerbaijan, for instance, they had set up 10,000 fake user accounts, which may be small in a country like India, but it's very large in Azerbaijan, which only has perhaps 10 million people. And so these were creating a million comments every month, so that every time a member of the Azeri opposition wrote something, they would be immediately deluged by comments about how they were terrible, the Azeri opposition were traitors, and the Azeri government was great and glorious. This, I'm sure, had a very chilling effect on discourse in Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much, Sophie Zhang, for joining us on Republic TV. Thank you.